All right. Welcome back, man. Is this your third time on?
Yes.
So we did our first podcast together, and then we did a little clip on like gun control.
Yeah. I was on last time. It was like a week after. I think it was Google or YouTube said they were limiting certain things. We weren't sure what the new rules were. So
it's really accelerated after that, honestly, to be from where we talked about it that day. I mean, the number of people that have been deplatformed and I mean, for lack of a better way of describing it, censored by these places like YouTube, Google, et cetera. But, so that's still such a discussion. Somebody I was listening to yesterday was saying that data, individuals' data, and I haven't verified this, so they're saying it just surpassed like oil and how valuable it is. Like for companies, it's $1 trillion. That me trying to figure out what you like, and then so like Brooks was saying this at the wedding yesterday. I think that's where I heard this, but she said that she'll like our stuff on our page, and then next thing, even though she doesn't do any MMA, doesn't train martial arts or anything, she likes our page, likes our stuff, and the next thing you know, Facebook's like, hey, this girl likes fighting. And they start, like just the other day, Colby was over.
I don't think you have to like to have. I have a story about that.
Oh, you don't? Happened. Yeah, is it related to the microphone?
Oh, no, it's related to shopping and then the Facebook algorithm.
Oh, that happens all. If I look at something on Reverb, I'm getting Reverb ads for the same stuff I was looking for. But here's another thing. Like Colby and I were in here the other night watching Roland, the older Asian martial arts master that's been coming in, working with me. He has been teaching me this Yip Man form on the Wing Chun dummy, and it's like 108 moves long, and I was showing Colby the form and talking about Yip Man and Kung Fu and stuff like that around Colby's phone, and Colby was asking questions. Colby doesn't search for your Kung Fu on his phone, doesn't watch the Yip Man, nothing, none of that. He has no knowledge of Kung Fu or Yip Man. But
and there it is.
But there it was on his phone. He's getting served Kung Fu videos left and right, and I don't think there's any new Ip Man movies or anything coming out right now, are there?
Not that I'm aware of.
So it's just a little too...
Yeah, it's creepy. No, we went mattress shopping. We needed a new mattress desperately. So we were looking around town. Now, we never checked in. We never said, hey, we're looking at... We went to local places, and we found some good stuff that we liked. And I think about 2 weeks ago, so we started looking around. You got to test stuff out. Welcome to middle age.
I just got a mattress somewhat recently too, and you do. You have to lay on.
Yes, this is a medical necessity now. But we get home and we've got it narrowed down to 2, and awesome. Within like 24 hours, my wife gets you start seeing the banner ads. She gets one direct from the manufacturer, not from the local people.
Yeah.
So she checks it out, actually checks it out. And direct from the manufacturer was half the price of the local.
That's discouraging for local business.
Yeah, it becomes. This was a huge difference in price. I try and support local. When you're talking about a $5 difference, it's one thing, but this was $400 of difference. I can pay. I think it was $7.99 locally, and I think we paid $3.89. That's including shipping, handling to the door.
That's nice, man.
But here's the funny part. It arrived Friday. And now I am seeing I got another banner ad for purple. I got there's an avocado mattress apparently, which is certified organic, but it's like, I'm not checking in. I didn't even mention on social media that I have a new mattress. And it's become, I say the algorithms of the world are taking over.
Yes, that's a great way to put it, honestly. And it's been interesting for me to think about because 10 years down the road on this, because the last election, for example, presidential election with all the stuff that was going on with social media, misinformation, manipulations, algorithms being manipulated to, I mean, more and more is coming out all the time, honestly, about how the methods of how they were used in Cambridge Analytica and all that, and Facebook having to pay that, what was it, a $5 billion fine somewhat recently?
I think, in Europe.
Yeah.
Because they have a whole different set of rules.
I didn't hear that was in Europe. I just, just the company overall. But I mean, I mean,
Microsoft, Facebook, and Google have had, you've got antitrust laws, being a monopoly, stuff like that. They're more stringent and require more transparency in a lot of European countries. Yeah. So you get these, that's where you see there's a second side to a lot of this as well. But it's like, your grocery store is run by algorithm. They look at everything that's bought that goes through Kroger. What's selling great? What's not? Okay, that's going to get dumped.
Yeah. Never-ending process.
Oh, no. It's like you can see it with Amazon. What are people watching? What are people buying? Suggested for you.
Man, I wonder how much of this charge that Amazon is leading because, I mean, wow. They didn't pay any taxes last year or this year, whenever it was. And I buy almost everything off Amazon. I mean, Amazon or just online in general. And it's just like, it's oftentimes because of what you described at the beginning. And man, owning a small local business, that's disheartening for me because I want to support local business, but like, and I will say this, I will even pay more to a local business within reason, but all the other things have to be in a line.
Oh yeah, that's the magic. I do this all the time. I got my Dungeons and Dragons T-shirt on.
Oh, I just thought that was a Dunkin' Donuts T-shirt, no. Dude. I just now noticed that we were at the gym earlier and everything.
Yeah, but each of the books is probably $35 to $50 if you go through either a local game store or like I've gone through the local bookstore. But if you go to Amazon, you can get them for $22, $25. But I've made a conscious choice. I'd rather support those local businesses. For like, $15 is not, to me, not that big a deal. But that's where the mattress thing is like, I basically halved the price and I got it to my front door. That, you save $400. I hate it for the local business, but that's a lot. You're within reasons, that key idea.
Yeah, they should be addressing that. Like, I mean, I'm just trying to empathize because it's like, think about a few years ago in the martial arts business when it was such a taboo thing to offer martial arts online and stuff like that. Like people were doing like, send us the tapes, you're going to offer you a belt this way.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm all about like, honestly, if Dring said to me like, hey, dude, once a month, we're doing a private lesson on Skype. You need to have a partner there. That's part of this. I would do it. But it's when that's all that's going on to continue rank. When it's not like, I see that dude so many times a year. He comes to me. I go to him. Yeah. Private lessons, seminars, training with all the other people too outside of just that. It's, I think, when it's just the online exchange. But, man, maybe I wonder how much of our economy is headed in that direction. You know what I'm saying? To where it's like in Northwest Arkansas yesterday, I drove by this Walmart grocery pickup site, massive. I remember when they were just building. I remember when that was becoming a thing because Bentonville was kind of the tester market for a lot of those things.
I think I know which one you're talking about because there's no storefront.
Yes. It's off like Exit 85, I think. It's the one before the Inferno when you get to Bentonville.
Yeah, I know when I was up for Black Belt Camp, I drove around and I joked, you see every variation of Walmart.
Oh, yeah. There's even the Walmart gas station up there.
Exactly.
Or convenience
store.
We
have two different versions.
We got the neighborhood market. And remember when there were no super centers?
Yeah, I remember because I'm old enough to remember when Walmart expanded into Pennsylvania. Because literally
I was about to ask that.
They built one of their first Northeast distribution centers not 2 miles from my high school. And it's huge. Every distribution center is large, but it was like, Walmart wasn't everywhere in like the late 80s.
Was that good for you guys' economy? Because the distribution center around here provides a lot of jobs and they pay more than stereotypical.
I think so in general. I realize every summer we do this huge road trip to go see family back in Pennsylvania, vacation. And I think this year we drove we figured the math out, like, close to 3,000 miles. But one of the things you notice is when you're driving on the highway, you will see more and more distribution centers. And they're strategically located at, like, crossroads. Like, you get to a certain spot. Like, I saw Dollar General distribution centers, Target distribution centers. Saw one of those sadder ones, GameStop distribution centers, where all your used game, but it's a massive warehouse, but they're all strategically located. They're at, I would say if you draw a circle within 10 miles of major highway intersections where they come together, there's a good chance you're going to have a distribution center somewhere nearby. We want easy on, easy off highway access. Like, I remember I drove to Chicago, I think 2 years ago, and stuff. And there's just certain spots when you get to major crossroads of interstate highways where there is going to be a lot of distribution centers. My town where I grew up had lots and lots of shopping in general. I don't think Walmart did much to it, but I think the internet really, really hurt the town more than Walmart. Just because, there was all kinds of shops. Like, if you want, you watch Stranger Things, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Season 3 was in the mall. And it was great sort of flashbacks to, it's 1987. We're getting dropped off at the mall. We're going to go walk around. And you see, like, the Chess King, the Orange Julius, all those places like that. And that was really what my hometown of Reading, Pennsylvania was known for. It was an outlet shopping town. And I'd say about the millennia, once you start getting online retail, and probably more Amazon did it in than I would say Walmart. When you're starting to be able to get these things online for the best price, delivered to your front door, brick and mortar, always say brick and mortar shopping has gone downhill. And you start thinking about, what places do you remember closing? Did you ever shop at a Circuit City?
I remember them closing.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I mean, one from my childhood, Toys R Us. I'm sure from your childhood, too. They just recently went under.
Yeah, Babies R Us, which same company, different wings, but...
Yeah. What else has gone out recently that you can think about?
Well, I'm thinking
like
I'm thinking, long term. I think every year you have... Sears.
True.
Yeah.
Sears,
well, yeah, but there's two halves of Sears. Like, there's Big Sears, which is also part of Kmart. That's what we lost here in Russellville.
Yes.
But you also have, like, what they call them, Sears hometown stores or whatever. Like, there's one still in Russellville, which it was weird to me. As Sears was having trouble, they had signs up saying, "We are not part of this problem." Because they're still in business. They still, Kmart went under a year ago and closed up. But they said they're still open. They still sell. Now they're great for, like, home items. Like, I think all my appliances are from there. Lawn and gear. They don't have the full store, but you've got a lot of good stuff still here.
What do you think about places like Dillard's, J.C. Penney's? Like, I think those are goodies. Like here in our town, for example. I think those are the next wave of these retail stores that are going to go out.
A lot of them have been struggling, and it depends on how fast they can integrate and make the online portion work too. Because when you order something from, if you go to JCPenney and order something from their website and they ship it to your store, great. They still may be able to, but what happened to a lot of them is they either ignored or minimized the online shopping. They didn't think it was...
Didn't take it seriously, yeah.
This is a fad.
Gary Vaynerchuk talks about that extensively. It's like you missed the wave there, and now you're going under.
Yeah. And some of what gets me when you go to Amazon is you don't realize that some of these other retailers are actually selling through Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like...
Smart.
Yeah.
I was looking around on
Sell 10% of your sold to Amazon and keep your business open.
I was just on there the other day, and it's super easy to become a seller on Amazon to set up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's go with this. Like, do you think that is going to negatively impact places like eBay? For example, so like, remember when eBay was like the shit? Like when it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
I mean, and look, I bought a couple things on eBay in the last 18 months, particularly some widespread painted prints. But none of these are in the other room. It's a whole wall of hand drawn prints of the band.
Do I have
and in
to-
my office.
Do I have to ask, does Cora know the presence of all of these?
She's aware. Yes, we've already had thoughts about it. But
Is this one of those I bought 3 prints is what you tell her and you really bought 6 or 7?
yeah, it's a forgiveness thing, not
It's
a
widespread
permission.
panic stuff.
Yeah, she loves them. We're seeing
yeah.
them 5 times in the next 2 weeks. So
5 times in the
there's a 3-night show coming up, and then there's a 2-night show coming up. So
God, yeah.
yeah, it's going to be. We're driving to one, flying to one. So one of them's the 2-day we're flying to, and it's on the holiday weekend. So that'd be nice.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think eBay was huge 10 years ago when I was a teenager, and it seems like, I mean, dude, I never go to eBay. I go to Amazon. You can buy used stuff at Amazon. They're auction or not auction style. And honestly, man, anytime I go to eBay, I don't have time to auction and like check the app on my phone every 5 seconds to see if I got outbid or whatever. I want to buy it now. That's always the feature I looked at on eBay. I have bought some things with the bidding, and that's, I guess, what separates the two platforms. But, man, for me, in my mind, Amazon's totally replaced them.
Yeah, I think there's still some marketplaces that won't be touched. Like I think you get into like the Etsy crowd and things like, you know, Etsy's a lot more sort of arts, crafts, things of that nature. I don't think Amazon, there's no practical way for Amazon to sort of get in there to the same level.
Wayfair's big too. Have you guys?
I know I've checked it out.
Cora's always on there, man.
Well, it's, you know, furnishings, stuff like that. But I think you're going to get those little niche market, you know, spots that for whatever reason, it's just too much. But the trouble that I find out is Amazon owns other stuff. That was one of the most...
Yeah. It's just like Coca-Cola or anything else. You start digging, you're like, you own all that too?
Yeah. In my American government textbook, one of the best things they have is in the media chapter, they have the media ownership chart. And there's basically like 6 companies, multimedia, everything that owns like 90% of what consumers get. You know, like...
I've seen that breakdown.
Like Disney covers so many different things. You know, Disney owns part of, you know, they own Star Wars, Marvel, all the Disney properties. Oh, and they own ABC.
Hey,
and they own ESPN.
Are you going to get the Disney Plus service?
Oh,
are you familiar with that?
Of course.
Dude, apparently it's already available. Somebody's telling me yesterday it was already available. I hadn't looked into it since they told me that, but I'm like...
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like out for an alpha or a beta test to start.
Man, I'm trying to watch all sorts of Disney movies, dude. like all the made-for-TV movies that came out every week when I was a kid, like Brink and Johnny Tsunami and shit. I'm all over that, dude. So it's like everybody else from my generation. Like Mike Page's wife and I yesterday were talking. I was like dropping all these movies' names. I'm like, and she's like, hell yeah.
Well, I think just from convenience point, like me, my kids, we are big into the Marvel universe. We go to see all the movies opening weekend. I avoid social media like the plague until I've seen it.
Yeah.
But one of the things we get into is that it comes in and out of platforms. You know.
Yes, I hate that, man.
They launch on Netflix. Well, that's with everything. It'll be on Netflix for a while, then go away. Then it goes on to Hulu for a while and goes away. But if you know it's a Disney property, it's going into Disney Plus. It is staying there, and you're going to have every Marvel movie that you would want for $13 a month.
Cora and I right now, we canceled our HBO, but we are playing with, you know anything about Sling TV?
Yes. We cut the cord about 2.5 years ago.
On Sling?
Yeah, that's what when we started, basically it was a package deal that it was with Roku. You basically, you signed up for Sling TV for I think 6 or 9 months. You got the Roku box free, and then you could add apps and stuff like that. That's what we did that and have never looked back. I think just because we realized with our schedule, we don't watch anything that's actually on live.
I'm the same way, man. And like, honestly, I'm probably going to cancel this Sling after I finish watching all the episodes of Ancient Aliens. But
yeah,
but there are some series on there that I'm just binge watching, and we have like Nat Geo and stuff. I need to start TiVoing some things, but man, I'm about to cancel a whole bunch of stuff and kind of reconfigure because man, I've seen the whole Game of Thrones franchise so many times. And I was so disgusted with season 8. Dude, when I was showing cave paintings in my Civ 1 it was Civ 1 class, I was like, I went to this horse on the ceiling of a cave, and I was like, and here we have season 8 of Game of Thrones. Click, going to the next one.
Yeah.
So,
but we've talked about this. I don't. This is where, like, the Dungeons and Dragons community said, this is like you got a game going and somebody's moving away, and it's like, oh, quick, we have to finish this storyline up in the next 2 hours, you know. Because I was thinking about, I don't mind where the plot went, but it was so quick.
Hurried.
Oh, it was like, on Red Bull and cocaine hurried. Like, I was thinking about it, like, one of the best character development arcs in the previous seasons was when Jaime Lannister and Brienne Tarth were taken prisoner and escorted from the north down to King's Landing.
Yes.
You had an entire, I think it was season, where you got to watch them suffer, you got to watch them grow. You needed at least the descent of Daenerys into madness. You needed an entire season. If what we talked about is it was there, but if you didn't catch one or two sentences in a 70-minute episode, you completely lost.
That was the case with Varys in the last season, like when they were putting him to death.
It was the case with everybody in the last season. Like, you could have probably done 2 more whole seasons, take the same plot points, but you had to show it. I want to see, instead of, I think it's Jon Snow's landing back at the castle.
Yeah,
and it's right after Daenerys has lost her second dragon. And I forget who he's talking to as they're coming out of the boat, but he's like, yeah, she's been locked in her room for weeks, hasn't come out. And it's like, you could have shown this some other way. You needed to show this some other way. Whereas if you miss that one, or if you're like kind of casually watching, if you miss 1 or 2 sentences, you missed a huge, development plot. It's like, oh, she's been suffering over this. But if you,
I know there's so many things they could have done differently, but
it just take longer,
Yeah, and I hope that. I guess they're talking about doing a lot of prequels and different things like that. Maybe there will be some redemption. I don't know. But season 8, it's not season 8 too. It's like, man, the last couple of seasons, it's like it got so good, like up into season 5, and then it just kind of meandered.
I think the books, I've read them as well. So the 5,000 page commitment. In books and even in a television show, there's a lot of plot lines going on. And the TV show, they took plot lines out.
Yes.
They completely skipped some
Lady
of them.
Stoneheart, for example.
There you go. But it becomes, they had, like, one of the things I said is, the Battle of Winterfell. That should have actually been the end of the previous season. Because you've got 2 major sort of, if you're the Starks and you're Winterfell, you've got sort of 2 major problems. You've got the Army of the Dead, and you've got, Mad Queen Cersei. To start narrowing your showdown, you got to get rid of one of those.
They could have, I agree with that. They could have started the last season with, like, Arya killing the Night King. Like where it looks like total despair, and then Arya kills the Night King at the beginning of the next. And then they could have gone... Man, like, the fact that they were planning, you remember, like, there's 2 seasons left, and they're like, well, the next season's only be 7 episodes. The season after that's only, like, we were hearing the reports on what the breakdown would be 2 years ahead of time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they had written everything out, but.
See, here's the one thing I always wondered is everybody's been, Weiss and Benioff blaming them. I would love to hear HBO. I want to hear what HBO told them. Was there any back and forth? We need you to wrap this up in 1 season. If I were them, I would say
we're ready to start the prequel. Or I do. I wonder what the logic was.
Yeah, I've got. I would say if I were them, as sort of an artist, like, I've got a plot. I've got 2 seasons. This first season, we're going to finish up the Night King. The second season, we're going to finish up King's Landing, and you sort of lay it out. But if the network says no, because that's one thing. There's also, I've always been fascinated by network interference in art.
I wonder what's going. And I think I know, but with Better Call Saul. It's in a down period right now. So, like, what I think they're doing is doing the 10-year Breaking Bad movie, and then so there's a season off of Better Call Saul, and it's apparently the next season's going to be the last season. So, like what I was saying on season 8 of Game of Thrones, like maybe through the franchise of Better Call Saul and the 10-year later Breaking Bad movie or whatever, maybe they're going to do an exceptional job at tying all that together, and it brings a whole new meaning to both shows. That's what I think. Because they keep showing in Better Call Saul the later portion of his life after he's already gone on witness protection.
Yeah.
And then leading up to and even running parallel with the Breaking Bad plot line. So I'm like,
oh, yeah.
this has so much potential, and I wonder what that Breaking Bad movie is going to be like.
Yeah. Part of it is I've noticed if you watch enough series, shows, et cetera, you know, talent goes around other talent. And you start to realize that, you know, the Breaking Bad group is incredibly talented, you know.
They are,
but they've also always had a plan. You know, you've heard, was it Gillian? I think is the one who does a lot of interviews. He said we sat down, we did Breaking Bad, we had a 5-year plan. This is where we want to start. This is where we want to finish. When shows don't have that kind of structure, like when you're writing Game of Thrones, and the author himself is in book 5 of planned book 7. And it's like one of those, where's Winds of Winter? You know, the Game of Thrones fans are like, where's the book?
Yeah, chapter 1's online, I think.
Oh, there's like 4 or 5 actual chapters. No, he's got a strange writing style, but I don't think because the ending wasn't written, they don't have as much of a structured plan. They don't have kind of
I wonder, do you think the author did that to kind of play HBO? I mean, think like
oh no
the book is going to be different, you know. So is he going to have more book sales because of that?
I don't know, not necessarily. If the way the books are really interestingly written, each chapter is told from the different point of view of a character, and he does some funky stuff in there. Like there's one, I think it's when Tyrion and Sansa, they're trying to escape at some point. There's 3 or 4 chapters in quick sequence where it's Tyrion's point of view. It's literally.
I like that style of writing where you are seeing it just through one character's eyes. And some of the best books I've ever read are like that. Like each chapter is from a different point of view, just like you're saying.
Yeah, but what happens? What I think it's very easy to write a single chapter, to get those into a narrative of a story you can follow. Especially with as many moving pieces. Like the first 3 books, I think he does a great job of it. It's clear, you know, you've got sort of the build up. The first book is before the war ever starts. You know, the first book and the first season follow really closely together.
Before Robert's Rebellion start, or not before the
Stark Rebellion effect,
okay.
The war in the North. The second book and the second season are about the same idea as the war itself. The third, if I remember, it's called Feast of Crows. It's sort of the aftermath. The war's burning down, but you've got all this, you know, this is where the Brothers Without Banners coming in. This is where, you know, oh, by the way, we're going to follow Arya over to Bravo so she becomes a faceless man.
Man, they did not give me any satisfaction on that plot line. You know what I'm saying? Like, where do the faceless men come in? And what about Jojen Reed's dad? You know, like Mira and Jojen, like, I expected to see that dude show up.
There was memes about, it wasn't Jojen, it was the girl, the one who, like, you know, you basically escorted Bran, you know, north of the wall, found the 3-eyed raven, got him back alive from the wall, and you vanish. It's like, you know, that's when you should know you got too many plot lines. So, but it's
frustrating.
Oh yeah.
I really, you know. Did you see when I canceled my HBO the photo I threw up? It was like the thing. It's like, you've now canceled your HBO. I was like, and now my watch has ended.
Yeah, but it's but like, you know, you see these groups of people who work together, the Breaking Bad crew, that the reason I think they even thought about Better Call Saul is you brought back almost everybody from the Breaking Bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have another 5-season arc planned. But the one I always say, if I know we will get to local politics and stuff like that. One I say, everybody, if you want to understand small town local politics or politics in general, go watch Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I was talking with Mike about that. I've only seen a couple of seasons of it. I haven't watched it a couple of years, but hilarious show.
Yeah, but that is a very, very talented group who came together. Much of that group is still working together. If you've seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, a lot, like the same creator moved to that show, and there's like little throwbacks you see. The name Peralta actually appears in like 2 episodes of Parks and Rec, and then appears as main characters and stuff like that. But you see those groups who work together really, really well, and especially for television shows where you're not, you're telling stories over, a movie's tricky enough. You got 2.5 hours, but you're trying to tell a story over, 10 hours or whatever a normal television season is anymore. You see those sorts of things fall through, and you can see, I think the Marvel Universe has done that really well. I mean, yeah, you got some above average contributions, but there's a lot of good stuff out there. It's Kevin Feige is sort of the brains. When you say, "Hey, I just made 21 movies in 11 years, shattered blockbuster records. The plot is pretty, good continuity."
I like how they cross over between the sitcoms and in the phases and how they're divided. It's great.
That's the thing. There's different genre films that are out there. Like Ant-Man is sitcomish.
Yes.
It's Paul Rudd. He's kind of silly, but then you've got. Did you ever see Logan?
Yeah,
Logan
was great.
R-rated. It's a mutant western.
Did you see me share on the Life Unraveled page today the X-Men theme song getting shredded with a whammy pedal?
I saw the link go by, but I didn't get a chance to listen.
Dude, that old school '90s cartoon, that one. And two, I think I just saw the mail person go by the window. I'm pretty sure they're dropping off my Tom Morello whammy pedal, and I was just like, I can make those sounds when that pedal gets here.
Amazon delivering on Sundays.
Yeah, dude, isn't it weird that how fast you get stuff nowadays? Like,
yeah, I ordered. It's funny. I was sort of complaining. Amazon has been kind of weird with purchasing things, like especially like DVDs. I think we have most of the Marvel movies, and I knew the second time we'd watched it, I was ordering Endgame the minute it came out, but they didn't have it listed with a price through which. But part of it is they're also movies now come out in stages. You could watch it on their streaming service.
Yes,
3
I've noticed
weeks ago,
that. I've noticed that.
I think it's 4 weeks ago. You could watch it on Amazon. You could buy it on Amazon Prime, and you own it and watch it on the streaming service. Then 2 weeks ago, it was the Blu-ray, and then this week was finally the DVD.
Well, Corey and I noticed this when we were out of town in Vegas or something a few years ago, but there was some movie, and this was like right when digital streaming was really going down the path of what it is. But we were in Vegas, and there were all of these movies that you couldn't do anything with them. You couldn't buy them. You couldn't but there on the hotel TV, you could rent them. And this is like weeks ahead of any release for digital streaming or anything, but it's like, yeah, you can rent them. You can't buy them. You can't buy the digital version. You can't get the Blu-ray. You can't get this. You can't get that. But you can rent this movie for about $17.
Yeah.
And we did. One night we just stayed in the hotel room and watched, I think it was, it wasn't American Wedding. Remember they came out with like another one?
Yeah.
Where it was like their high school reunion or something like
it.
that. But it was months before it came out, and there was another one on there. It was like months before it came out or something like that. But it is like they've started giving you in sort of phases access to the movie, and you might pay more. But on a movie like you're saying with Endgame, like you might pay $17 to rent it 2 weeks before it's streamable or before you could purchase it.
Oh, yeah. And you can't, it's one of the things I haven't found. They don't have like a whole package where I can buy, I want both the DVD and the streaming version. I might pay $25 for that.
They do need to start doing that. I totally agree. There are plenty of times I want both. I want but man, anymore, we end up renting the digital or for like $2.99 or whatever it is, or we just end up buying it. We got a digital collection going now, so it's it's wild. Isn't it weird? It's like the transitions. Like you remember, like, oh, we're trading cards, and now, or whatever, and it's DVDs, and now it's like, yeah, we're just collecting digital content as human beings.
I got one that I recognized we do Redbox. There's one like right down the hill. but a DVD from Redbox is like $1.75. But I get, I have an account, so it goes on all my receipt stuff like that. But I get lots of commercials for the Redbox streaming service. You put an app. You can, if it's on Redbox, it's in the app. Rental is $5. You're paying $3.25 for convenience. I don't got to get up. I don't have to drive 5 minutes down, 5 minutes back, or check with boxes to find.
Well, typically new releases are more expensive too.
Well, this is for any release.
Okay.
So it's one of those. If
Do you ever rent through Amazon?
Occasionally, if there's some really weird.
Are they about neck and neck? Because we rent exclusively through Amazon for the most part.
It depends on the thing. Is a lot of Redbox's model is, say, releases in the last 6 months. That's what they're really aimed for.
What's hot right now, basically, what's getting rented.
And I think one of the things I also noticed that Redbox, I think, is you can rent video games through them too. That's
interesting.
Video games. I love video games.
Digitally, you're saying?
I don't know if you can through the app or not.
Okay, just the disc. Yeah, I've seen that.
But I know games are expensive. You could drop $40 to $60 on a new release, and you don't know what you're getting. But you can go, think about it. I can go to Redbox. I can rent the disc, spend $5, play it for like 2 nights, and go, okay, this is what I thought it was. I like this, and then buy it. Mm-hmm. Or I can say, no, thanks, but no thanks. It didn't do this, that, or the other thing. So that's the thing about Redbox, which I think is interesting, is that their model's not just movies. They diversified to games as well, which I think helps. But the thing that gets me is with other stuff is like you can get TV through PlayStation Network.
I've been queuing in on that a little bit.
All
our games are same systems are retro, but
you don't need. You can get an app that you can install. Like there's a PlayStation app. You don't need a game console. You can put it on your Roku or your laptop or whatever, and still get the content. I know they're diversifying sports content that way. If you look, UFC was on Fox forever. It just moved to ESPN. Mm-hmm. Well, you've got ESPN proper. You've got ESPN apps. All that sort of stuff.
It's big. That's big right now. And then, like I noticed on Amazon probably 6 months ago, they're pushing sports on Amazon Prime big time. Like on my digital streaming, like I see all these like NFL and like, hey, you want to watch this game? You can order this game. I'm like, no, actually, I don't want to see that shit on here at all. Is there an option to make the football go off my dashboard?
See, I'm the opposite way. It's like they've been experimenting. Yeah, you've been able to watch an NFL game on YouTube, Amazon, Yahoo, and Google, and part of this is it's experimentation. As long as I have been an adult, you have had sports on the major networks. NFL is like a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I think almost all other sports combined equal the NFL. But I think they've always been major network sports. You have to go to Fox, you got to go to CBS. You want to do Monday Night Football, it's now on ESPN. That's the way you had to go. But people are cutting cords. What I will do, this reminds me, I got to do it. I'll go to Hulu and I'll get my live channels for like 4 months. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think
seasonal TV.
Yeah, once we hit Labor Day weekend, now it's time to pay attention to the NFL on Sundays. And are the Eagles on? Great. That's it. Just don't be a bad team fan. For a long time, the joke was the Cleveland Browns. Like, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan living in Arkansas, you will never see them. Don't waste your time or money. But yeah, you're seeing these corporations like we were talking beforehand. You just saw Jim Gaffigan go on Joe Rogan. He was talking about this. Like, people can now go buy their socks, they can buy their T-shirts, and they'll go watch his comedy special. You've got Amazon providing NFL television coverage. You've got
everything's streamlined, man.
Oh yeah,
it's insane. Like what we're talking. Like, would you have thought that this would be the world we were living in 20 years ago?
Oh no, 20 years ago actually works perfectly because I remember, I basically being in the Army was being in a bubble. Like it was like the internet and computers for college still were just coming online when I left for the Army, and it was everywhere when I got back. And that was only a
Were
5-year.
you 4 or 5 years in?
Yeah, a little over 4. Basically, I took my last college courses in early 1991, and I restarted in the fall of '96. And it's like digital card, just like digital card catalogs. I remember.
Bro, you missed like the whole grunge era, man.
Oh no, we got music, but as far as technology and stuff like that in universities, I wasn't around universities, but we came back, and I remember we had a professor who was the first one to say, "Here is how you email, write your paper. Here's how you attach it to your email and send it to me electronically." And that was probably '98. Where it's now, I don't. I've got tests that are online. I don't handle physical papers very much at all. They turn it in. I can't lose it. They get receipt copies. The original's there. The turn it in grade version's there.
It's come such a long way, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the way I'm now this semester, and we just got started, but I'm streamlining everything so much more than ever, and that how it's organized in our educational software, which is Blackboard, same you use. Mm-hmm. And then how I'm using multiple approaches on sources like, hey, here's an article. Hey, here's a PDF of this primary source. We're going to look at a couple of videos here, and how you can just integrate the text and cross things over. So, like, that'll be a good way for us to segue over to like AETN, man. Mm-hmm. For example, and I know those videos aren't going anywhere. It's the good part. So, like, you go on ATN periodically. What is the actual show that you're going on? Like,
it's called Arkansas Week. It is they shoot it, I think they do it every Friday. It's issues concerning the state.
What is that guy, the host?
Steve Barnes.
Okay. Yeah.
He's been a reporter.
Is he related to Ken Barnes? Not Burns, Barnes. Because the Black used to always talk about Ken Barnes. Ken Barnes, an Arkansas historian.
I don't really know him that well. Like, I know him professionally. I don't think we've ever... Because, I mean, they're really working through fast. Like, when I was there Friday, I got to the studio about 9:45 in the morning. Went back... Got my hair done, got makeup put on me. But I was at the desk, wired in by 10 a.m. The other college professor who was there but like 2 minutes after I was. And early that morning, they'd already shot with Senator Bozeman. He was there like at 8:30 in the morning.
I think he came to Morrilton that same day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He was in Morrilton.
They do these swings through, like, but by... The cameras, they told us you got 13 minutes. Cameras roll, go.
Oh, Housenick, we're at 42 minutes. You're out of time. Dude.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
That's the thing. That's like, but it's the great thing about it is I tell everybody there's no editing. It is everything you see was our take. There's no editing. There's no taking anything out.
Nice.
It's one of those. We're all politics nerds. Like we joked about it. If you set us up like at a bar with like a 7-ounce beer and got the cameras rolling, you could do the same show in 30 minutes, almost with no host. Because okay, what happens when you put a bunch of jiu-jitsu people in a room together? They're going to be talking about, did you see this? Have you tried that? How's your half guard?
Gordon Ryan this.
Exactly. It's the exact same thing with people in any kind of field they're passionate about. They would do it for free. But I think when it comes to AETN, I've accidentally sort of become the Pope County expert. Because it's been a fascinating year for Pope County politics.
Oh, I know, man.
But the thing is, there's always a statewide connection.
I'm glad that you are going like I know that you heard Drew and I talking about you on a recent podcast, but
yep.
I'm glad that we do have some discourse and a forum to discuss these issues, and just kind of recapping some of the things I heard you talking about. I didn't listen to the whole talk yet, but I mean, you said it Friday, and I kind of saw the headlines of you guys were hitting on Second Amendment and casino, correct? Yeah. And then too, the larger, which is we're kind of on the other side of that, so to speak. But not at the same time the cannabis issue. Like we did a podcast on the casino and cannabis somewhat recently.
Yeah.
Where are we as a state and local community in comparison to other communities in the state and federally on all that stuff? I mean, people always sort of stereotype, well, you're in the Bible Belt to the south and you have dry counties. And dude, I am just so ready to move past. It's like, could we just be like the rest of, if there is a way that the rest of the states are like, can this region start acting that way? Because like there is no federal prohibition of alcohol. And that is going to be the next hot button issue attached to this casino.
Oh, it's coming. Yeah, that is scratching the surface. This is why I think jiu-jitsu and being a professor work hand in hand together, because you have to be a constant student. You're always learning. If you want to find out if a professor is sort of mailing it in, you sort of look at how long have you been running these notes, and stuff like that. But you're always having to learn, and especially learning more and more like Southern politics. There's a point where Southern politics and Southern history converge. Like, we were talking, you're teaching Arkansas history. One of the big books on Arkansas politics is a guy by the name of V.O. Key. He basically wrote the first regional studies book, and he had a chapter on each and every one of the southern states.
That. What's his name again?
V.O. Key.
K-E-Y?
Yep.
Okay.
I think he wrote it in the late 50s, early 60s. And there's still things, when you say the South, there's a lot of difference between states. Like whether it's Alabama, Arkansas, we'll keep Florida out of this. But things like South
Alabama, man. Holy shit.
Yeah. But one of the things he saw back then, that, again, you're talking a 50-year-old book now at least.
Yeah, he died in 63, I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like UCLA, Johns Hopkins University is where he taught, and Yale.
Yeah.
Shit.
Oh, yeah, but
I got to look into this guy.
But we have an Arkansas political science conference, and it's not will V.O. Key be mentioned, but how many shout-outs does he get? Like you're saying, yeah. The dude's been dead for 55 years, and then some. But V.O. Key looked at individual states. He did sort of the first deep case studies. And he said one thing about Arkansas culture, especially compared to an Alabama, Arkansas has a more libertarian, individualistic political culture than Alabama does. I think the word he uses to describe Alabama was it was much more congregational. Arkansans have always had that individualistic liberty streak.
Yeah, rugged individualism.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, what you do, and this covers marijuana, this covers guns, what you want to do in the privacy of your own home, as long as it doesn't affect me, compared to like an Alabama, there is definitely a different political culture. Whereas, Alabama, you get some of this weirdness in Russellville. We don't want, the dry county stuff, casino gambling and, marijuana dispensaries. We don't want that here. It would be even worse and uglier if this were somewhere in Alabama. Arkansas is weird that we are the first southern state to legalize medical marijuana. Because part of it is it's not tied to political parties the same way other issues is.
Where would you hit on the differences in and how much it is affecting that, like I mentioned when we started talking about this with alcohol, is that it is not federally prohibited, but here we see this state and local issues with, no alcohol on Sundays and you can't have a liquor store.
Oh, I grew up in Pennsylvania. We had the same thing.
Yeah, and maybe the alcohol on Sunday, but what about, so marijuana is not. It is illegal federally, and that is the number one thing people in the gatekeepers in our community keep saying is like, well, this is federally illegal. We're just trying to follow what the government... or whatever. You
Yeah.
know? Unless we're trying to follow the state constitution on the casino, then we're going to break the law. You know.
What? People are inconsistent, sorry.
Yeah.
But, oh no, marijuana is weird that way. Because even like Colorado, where recreational marijuana is legal, technically it is illegal in the federal government. What a lot of it is, think of all the problems your police department has to deal with. Think of all the drug problems. Think of all the violent crime problems they have to deal with. You know, what we don't want anymore is we don't want, that police officer who works 40 or 50 hours a week. They will spend the same amount of time arresting somebody for a dime bag of weed as somebody for a kilo of cocaine.
Oh, I know. The scheduling is disturbing when
that's
you
what
really
it
look into
boils
it.
down to. Is that there's a federal schedule, and they put, for whatever reason, at one point, marijuana is in the highest. It's up there with heroin and cocaine and all the big hitters.
Yes.
But it's a lot of what they've said in like Colorado was like, look, we've got bigger fish to fry. We are not going to even. They call it like decriminalization.
We've seen that in Northwest Arkansas, Eureka Springs here in the state. We talked
Yeah.
about that a couple of podcasts ago.
But they've made it sort of, it's not, they're going on a very different argument than what is federally legal or illegal. They're saying, look, one of the realities of life politics is we live in a world with scarce time and scarce resources. And those states have said, look, and oh, by the way, we're going to tax it. Don't.
Man, taxation revenue has been great, though, for cannabis, has it not?
Yeah, Colorado, I think they tax it like at 19% or something like that. And they brought in $1 billion a year the first year. But it's like, it's one of those, hey, wait a minute,
Though, I mean, that's kind of the argument on the casino, is it not? That it's like nobody ever talks about all the benefits and all the tax revenue. And I know Russellville's not going to get any of that, but...
Well...
Or will they? I mean, do you know anything about why Russellville is not on annual operating budget sheet, and if that will change?
Let's start with this. The casino, we always talk about teachable moments. What can I show people? The casino is a weird, we call them NIMBY projects, not in my backyard. NIMBY. Now, the thing is, many NIMBY projects are like toxic waste dumps. We need a place to put stuff like Arkansas Nuclear One. They employ a lot of people. They generate power across the region, but it creates radioactive isotopes that take 10,000 years to decay. We do need a place to put this, but nobody wants a toxic waste dump in their backyard. They built one. I think it's in the Nevada desert. Why? Well, Nevada lost. It's isolated enough. It's the middle of nowhere. But it's, when we think of a NIMBY project, that's what people are thinking about.
Well, the things that Russellville's turning into NIMBY projects, which I like that word already, is, no, we're not having a retirement center in our backyard. We're not having a marijuana dispensary or a liquor store or
a casino.
Or a new martial arts academy it's...
Oh, yeah. But it's, it's... The state, I bring this up. The last time I did the show was about Arkansas Week. I think I did it in late June. The mayor of Little Rock had to cut several $1 million out of the budget this year and forever. Their annual Little Rock budget's about $200 million for Little Rock proper. He had to get it down to $193. You're bringing jobs, construction, and I would say half the mayors and quorum courts in Arkansas, if you would say, I'm going to bring 700 jobs the minute the shovels go in the ground, and those 700 jobs will stay forever. I'd say half the county judges and stuff like that would sell part of their soul. They'd be like, where do I sign up? Because the trouble with Arkansas is there is a lot of places which are sort of revenue neutral. They're stuck. And a lot of this, one of the things the state's really trying hard to fix is there is a digital divide in Arkansas. Like streaming and stuff like that. When you get south of I-30, when you get down in the Delta region, when you're getting close to those Louisiana borders and stuff, there is no high-speed internet access. Like, I've seen different numbers, but like a quarter of the state has no.
Well, Michael Booty, he can't. He has a high speed through like a satellite or something. I mean, he just lives out here north of Dover, dude.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Dean, who those guys like. They don't have access to the same type of internet that. And I'll say this, man. Like, I'm probably going to upload this podcast when I get to work tomorrow because, dude.
Yeah.
The amount of time the video uploads in comparison, like what I will do is I save a copy of the video to my computer so I can upload it from YouTube or Facebook from there because, man, Facebook and YouTube don't talk to each other. They hate each other.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like sharing a link from YouTube to Facebook's a joke. Like, it's Facebook's like, yeah, we're going to just be sure nobody sees that.
But that all those places, like I know we have a state senator, Breanne Ramsey. She worked hard to get Arkansas actually had strong restrictions on experimentation with rural broadband. They got rid of a lot of that because they realized, like, if you're trying to open a business, any business, in a third to a quarter of the state, there's no way to announce your digital presence.
Wow, I didn't think about that, man. I didn't
But
know that was that.
it's just the thing is, like, a lot of. If you're in Little Rock, it's good. If you're in Northwest Arkansas, it's good. If you're in Russellville, well, that's the thing. You see how fast it goes. Like Russellville proper, I've never had a problem with my high-speed internet. You know, we're maybe, 5 miles north? And you're okay. You go 5 miles more north to Booty's house, and you're suddenly in, 1880s internet access.
Yeah, I mean, he has like what I would perceive, and I mean, just based off talking to him, to be like a notch above
Just
dial-up.
DSL lines.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But that's, if you want to grow the state, but this project was bringing in a lot of money. And there was that, they fought it like, hey, we want to open a bubonic plague hospital in the middle of your county. And they fought tooth and nail. And part of it is, this is where it got tricky for me, is anti-groups threw so much crap against the wall. Like, I lost track of how many different arguments and how many different lines they actually said, this casino will bring blank. Half a dozen, a dozen. Because part of it from their strategy is they don't need all of them to work. They just need to find one. If one would suddenly hit, one suddenly sticks, great. They could slow it down, they could stop it, that sort of thing. That's why there's all this talk about they sent these affidavits to the Western, the federal judges for investigation, that there were payoffs and bribes, and we saw these quorum court members. It was just, they're shoveling, throwing everything as fast as they can against the wall. Because if one of those does stick, they can slow the process down, they can vest it. But this was coming, The people of the state spoke. The people of the state won. It was not a local vote. It was a statewide vote. If the groups that wanted to stop it in Polk County were smarter, they would not have put so much effort into just Polk County. Because every voter all throughout the state mattered.
That was the thing that I felt like was the biggest cesspool of misinformation on all of this, is that, and you can maybe elaborate and explain this better to people who are listening, but like, I mean, you trying to usurp the state constitution doesn't seem like the best thing to throw against the wall. And that seemed to, because of how the ordinance and we're going to vote on this and all the measures they tried to do for Pope County to have a say. But in the end, it was just like, yeah, that was cool that you guys did that. But
Let's try.
The state constitution says this, and that is what we shall be doing.
Yes.
I mean, is that?
Oh, yeah. No, that is. I had a student do a senior seminar paper. I mean, he wrote, and I had to be, the biggest thing I had to help him out was going down too many rabbit holes. Because there's a lot of great stuff, but they've actually, what I did not know is they have been trying to get a casinos, any number, in Arkansas for a decade.
I mean, dude, I've said this in joking and passing, but like, I'm being very real when I say it. Like, you ever watch Ozark with Jason Bateman?
Apparently I need to.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, season 2, which has been about a year or so since it came out, is all about a casino. And it's like, did you guys test this, put this in this market, this we keep talking about, at the federal level, at regional level?
Yeah, I heard as a source is on a whole nother story. But
Yeah, but how do you soften a market on an issue like this? I mean, we've been seeing the Hollywood connection in manipulation of this kind of stuff since the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think this is the trick. This has been coming for a long time. Now, what was different this year is like there were casino ballot measures in 2014 and 2016 to allow casinos to be built in Arkansas. I think this was the first time that mentioned Polk County, but there were different numbers. Let's be blunt. Oak Lawn and all those, they've been wanting this. Horse racing's good. My wife and I been around greyhounds and greyhound rescues for a long time. Out there in West Memphis, the greyhound industry is going away. It's on its last legs.
Let me ask you what you think about this. You owned a greyhound.
Before we had kids,
I think it's super effed up to race dogs and horses both. I think that's cruel. I think we need to do away with it as a society, and I think that it's like that's a disgusting excuse to gamble. Like this kind of came up lightly on the last podcast, but it's like I love my dog in there, even though he has to stay in the cage. The podcast, he's kind of immature, and we have the door open. But like, if somebody was just like, "Yeah, I'm going to make your dog run around a track," and people are going to speculate that, I just think that like that's where we are. Like that's that's okay, but
that's why it's. I think that's why it's fading out. Basically, I remember if my memory is straight, so put a big asterisk over this. When we had ours before we had our first daughter. So we had a greyhound, I think, from 2004 to 2007. At the time, there was still in the high 50s or low 60s numbers of tracks. So it was truly an industry. And that's the problem with it. It's not if Pupperman, if he loves to run and he loves racing other dogs and he's your pet and stays at home and sleeps on your couch,
yeah, for sure.
I have no problem with that.
But what we need to do is we need to get Pupperman on some of that John Jones stuff, some of that juice, and then we can get him leaned out, and then we can start getting our friend to go or whatever.
It's like a lot of other industries, just like commercial farming and stuff like that. Like once you turn it into a corporation. And, you're looking at these dogs, you start training them, and they start running races, and, what happens when they don't pan out? There was, that was where it was like when we were involved with greyhounds a lot, that's where it was kind of bad. These greyhound groups really, for the most part, only adopted as they were coming off the track. Basically, they get out there, they get about 6 races. And if they're not winning, if they're just not panning out, then they get adopted out. But there was always questions about, well, what happens if they figure out they're not a good racing dog at 9 months, 12 months? Because what happens at 18 months, they register the dog. If you ever look, greyhounds have ink. If you look at their ears, they have tattooed in actual like racing numbers, registration numbers. That's how they track them. But there was always this sort of cloud over the whole industry. Like, what happens to those dogs before they're registered, before the 18-month window? Now, part of this, what gets weird is the adoption groups could not come out really against the racing industry because you are willing participants. Like, the groups that you would adopt from, whether it was a track, breeder, whoever, they had to willingly, you couldn't force them to give up the dogs. They had to let you in. So you had to be really, really careful. Now, let's fast forward. So now it's 10 years later. Florida just outlawed greyhound racing by the end of 2020.
Really?
Yes.
So I didn't even know any of that was going on, other than just like, getting a dog, my empathy level has gone way up.
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. When Florida outlawed it, for a lot of the same things you talked about, it is a industry with we were around them heavily involved for 3 years when we were in Pennsylvania, where you get to learn more of it. And there are good breeders. There are better tracks, but there's worse. Florida was one of the worst. But the entire industry is only 17 or 18 tracks today,
That's good news.
and 2/3 of them are in Florida.
And that's on its way out. Okay, wow.
So imagine you trying to keep your industry going without 2/3 of it. I would, and I think the people in West Memphis know this. It's one of those. I found out there are industries which are aging, where you're targeting older individuals, and just because they've been around. If you've ever watched Ocean's 11, the joke, they go to the one guy, Rubens at the dog races or whatever, or it's Carl Reiner's character. He's at the dog races, and he is the target demographic, like 75 and 80-year-old retirees.
Yeah.
There's just not enough of them to keep the industry going. But I think what you saw in West Memphis is they're not stupid. They see this, and they know, okay, Florida closes down 2020. Yeah, we're still fine. 2021, 2022, it's going. So we need to, it's like any business, yours or racing or, you name it, you have to always be updating. You always have to be changing your model with the times of the market. And so that, hey, this industry, if you are in West Memphis, is going to be gone in the early 2020s. We'd better get a sports book. We'd better get a casino.
Yeah, I go play the pennies, go play the blackjack table.
Exactly. The racing, the horse racing I don't know enough to comment intelligently. One thing I realized, Oaklawn does not have a long season.
I didn't know anything about that, yeah. I mean, I can see it just being
it's Arkansas.
our weather, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 4th of July, it's 147 degrees and 200% humidity.
Well, that's another thing I thought. I mean, you're mentioning all these places where, I mean, dude, it's Arkansas hot out there right now. And, I mean, how high do we want to get these animals' heart rate out in that heat?
Well, you have the same thing. One of the things in all the let's circle back to local. One of the things that was talked about is they want some kind of sports complex. They were talking with a company that their final decision came down to be between Russellville and it was Jacksonville, which is North Little Rock. They were going to do 10 baseball fields and stuff like that. And they chose Jacksonville. That's where they decided to open it. So some of the casinos started including those sort of things, but it's Arkansas. Like, to make any business work, it's people in the seats, people coming through the doors. Baseball sounds great, say April through May, maybe early June, depending on the weather. And there is fall baseball in Arkansas, September, October, maybe even November. Welcome to global warming. But you're right. Can you get an industry and make it successful when you're going to there's 4 months basically where you may not be able to do it. You're not playing baseball in January and February when it's 37 and raining, and you're not playing baseball in July and August when it's 147 degrees outside. But it's part of it to make it work. It's got to be part of your business model, and I think that is. Others included it. Others worked. Whereas the casino operator who finally got the contract, they got a water park in there.
Oh, and a county jail and some other things.
Yeah, that's what a lot of what you talked about, the money tagged. Basically, when I looked back at it, they're getting a free year of operating budgets to some of these municipalities. Russellville needs a new...
Isn't that happening? Are those budgets happening every year, the casinos in the county, is what I was hearing?
I don't know if it was every year, but it's an initial. Those are specific dollar amounts to go to those municipalities.
No, that makes it seem a little less because if they don't get it every year, then it's not as big of an implication if Russellville doesn't get it because of all the jail, the community center, the sports complex, the water park, things that we are.
I want you to imagine like Judge Cross, the Quorum Court. They make the major decisions. I want you to take your business. I'm going to give you whatever comes through your registers in your door, a second one of those for 1 year. And you'd be like, I might give my left arm for that. But it's like, basically Judge Cross, a year after the casino opens, will get a free $27 million. And oh, by the way, a jail is about $30 million. He's going to get a brand new jail. He doesn't have to raise taxes. That's not including all the income and all. Remember, you've got state and local sales taxes. They're going to get revenue from construction workers. They're going to get revenue from wages once the casino opens. And he's like, you could do a lot of good. I think it was Pottsville is going to get one. I think I started finding the data. Pottsville will get a check that's basically double their annual operating budget. Suddenly I think like Pottsville's like $3.3 million.
Yeah, I saw the breakdown.
And
it's floating around.
Yeah, and they spend like $1.5 million a year. It's like, wow, I could not collect taxes for 2 years and still provide everything I already do. But it's as long as those. Here's the key: as long as those entities spend the money on what they plan, build that new jail. I wouldn't be if Pottsville's already got a pretty good school district. If all of a sudden everybody's got brand new school buildings, fully wired, that sort of thing. As long as what's promised gets spent where it's intended, fix those roads, fix that drainage. Jesus.
Let me ask you this: what do you think about this? Without sounding too controversial, because I personally don't care for it, but there was one justice of the peace that abstained due to conflicts of interest on this casino vote when the quorum court did flip the other day. Mm-hmm. There's also another justice of the peace whose family's company is selling the land to the casino. I think he should have abstained for the same reasons, and I think that this has been one of the biggest real estate speculations in the history of our county.
Yeah.
And a justice of the peace is directly going to benefit from it.
Yeah. In that case, one of the things about a lot of this is assuming all this is true, because that's something I've run into with like trying to figure out information for a lot of this was always so fishy. And part of it is actually like Facebook algorithm problems, but in that case, you probably, if you were going to make money off of the casino, if you're voting yes.
Because the reason the other JP abstained apparently was because he is in banking.
Yeah. So that's the thing. If you've got that, it's up to you to be, to clearly say I've got a conflict of interest. So, to recuse yourself or whatever, or, it's like one of the things I think the JP actually put out, like, I don't know if it was later that Tuesday or first thing Wednesday morning, but he said, look, I work in the banking industry.
I saw that, yeah.
No matter which way this goes, I'm going to be affected, so I abstained. I might have put that out at the beginning of the meeting. Or
a lot of people are saying something more like, don't run and get involved in our government.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way, dude. Like, here's the thing, that particular real estate company speculates on and controls more real estate transactions, arguably, based off what I know, than anybody else in town. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't put people from your office in the local government, but for that reason, just like banking, it's like, I don't want that going on. If there is a perceived future conflict of interest, if you are controlling real estate speculation anyway, because it's like, like I wanted this casino deal to go down, and it's that kind of stuff along with secret backroom meetings if they went on and stuff that will taint the well on this.
Oh yeah, the issue was it was a business negotiation, and I think that. I have my first recommendation if I were to be Pope County Commissioner or Russellville Mayor. I think both those offices, the county government and the city government, needs an office of communications to put more information out.
Yes, agreed. There's a lot of people pushing for that.
They need, because that was the biggest problem, is controlling the flow of information. Because like I joked about it, one of the problems I ran into trying to research, like I do, what most people don't see is like, I'm on television for 13 minutes. My Thursday night is usually 3 to 4 hours at my computer. I'm digging up information. I'm digging up data. I'm finding the hard evidence of what I want to say for those minutes. But you run into, like, I was trying to find out what was Gulfside's final project. And I couldn't find it. It may still be out there in the ether. I could find what Gulfside wanted to do in February. And it looks and this is true for all 5 casinos. They were all changing things, altering things, upping their antes, including new amenities and stuff like that. But there was, if somebody could have controlled that, just that little bit of information.
Agreed.
When you start to realize that, oh, by the way, 2 of the operators are going to build amphitheaters. These 3 are not.
I didn't see this for sure. What kind of concert venue are we getting with Cherokee?
I think you're getting a 3-stage approach. Basically, I know Hard Rock and Cherokee, they have a small stage of some form, so which might be 500 or 700 seats. They're going to have, I think, 1,000-seat indoor. But they're both going to have an outdoor amphitheater. I think Legends was 4,000 at opening.
Yeah.
And I think Hard Rock was talking 7 to 8.
Well, like the AMP, they're expanding right now.
Oh, yeah.
And, some of those concerts, like Cora went and saw Bush and Live there the other night, and maybe somebody else. But when we saw Dave Matthews there, when you were there, holy crap. I couldn't even walk over and talk to you, dude. I had to go talk to Booty where you snapped that photo. I had to, luckily we were up close to the top where I could walk up and go over and then walk down because he had a seat down. But, man, I think that they just noticed, some of the concerts we have here are just packed, selling out.
And part of it is, getting musical acts in Arkansas is sometimes tricky. You can look at a tour shirt, and you can tell, you can almost map out where their gear goes. You can watch it trickle. They're going to play D.C., and then Richmond, and then they're going to play somewhere in North Carolina, and then all of a sudden it's Knoxville, Nashville, Memphis, and then
Dallas.
I was thinking Tulsa or Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
They're running right down I-40, and the question is, do they play Memphis or Little Rock? And Memphis wins a lot more.
A lot of times, especially with that Mud Island Amphitheater. That's where I got that print right behind you, actually, that panic print on the wall there. But you're totally right. I mean, it is I've been going over in Arkansas history. We're just doing the geography section, but these orphan sections, it's you're not going to turn up 540 or 49 and go hit Fayetteville. You might, but it's the acts we see come through at places like George's are typically...
Temple Live in Fort Smith is a really nice place if you get to shoot.
I wonder if that's where we're seeing Todd. We're seeing... Okay, it says the Majestic.
No.
Have you been there in Fort Smith?
No, this is... unless they renamed it or rebranded it.
I wonder if that has to do with the Majestic, George's Majestic in Fayetteville is my...
No, this was an old Masonic lodge or something. But it was beautiful, 800-seat theater. But it's funny. You're sitting there on stage. I went with Booty. It's where we saw Government Mule.
Nice.
And my hearing's still not the same. Never been on the rail before. But
dude, Booty will take you up there and get weird, man. He's just he's all about that rail life, dude.
Oh yeah, but he was, I think, a casual mule fan. He really loved the show. It was great, But that's the kind of acts you're going to be able to get. And you're everybody's talking you're going to have really good national acts coming through. Because you're right off of I-40.
Hard Rock would have solidified that too. That was, I think, what a lot of people... Because, man, so many people get contracts to play at the Hard Rock, and then they play at a bunch of different Hard Rocks in the United States.
I think the biggest thing when I looked at the Hard Rock stuff was that that had the biggest label, instantly
brand
known.
recognition.
Exactly. Whereas I think one of the things that was behind the scenes that I ran into was how much money in reserve do these entities have?
That kept coming up for me too.
Everybody who's done home improvements, you got a budget, you try, but there's going to be cost overruns. You've got a rainy season, you've got price of steel goes up, stuff like that. You're going to spend more than you plan. Something about the way Hard Rock's corporate structure is set up, they have a good reserve fund. That was some of the problem. There was 2 smaller casino operators.
A lot of paranoia. They couldn't bankroll it, basically.
Well, I think the one was. I actually got to meet one of the he was the CEO of the one Iowa, the Keel family very nice guy, but they are a much smaller, and it's weird to say, they're a family-owned casino operation. If you had a tremendously bad season or something like that, they just did, they cannot compare. Cherokee had the deepest reserve fund. Cherokee can basically pay for the casino in cash and still have a $10 billion reserve fund sitting around. And it's nobody else in the competition was anywhere near. And Gulfside was the same way and the same problem, and all the threats of lawsuits, I think, turned more than a few people off to Gulfside. You want. I think the word Judge Cross used when he was announcing this was, we want an economic partner, and I think Gulfside was trying to force its way in through lawsuits. So I think that turned a lot of individuals off.
Yeah.
You talk about interest groups. That's what a casino operator would be. Is an interest group. They want to try and get a specific policy, get a letter, and they had different ways that they tried to achieve it. Cherokee worked with county leaders. They worked with group leaders behind the scenes, less publicly, less visibly.
Is that legal?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a big speculation. And like I was talking with another professor, PhD, like yourself, a different field, but he was saying that if these JPs did meet, and this guy's pro-casino too, but if they did meet and you and I didn't know about it, that is illegal.
There's weird rules for this. Like
number of JPs.
Yes.
And this would have been 5 to 7 that met.
Yeah, I don't know if that exactly happened.
At this park?
No.
I mean, that's what I was hearing.
I knew...
Shiloh Park, like right over here, yeah.
No, I was fortunate. I know, friends of friends. I know one of the JPs. And he actually, I got to go, and this is how I met the Keel guy. Like, he took me with him to this meeting, and they were so, he in particular was so worried about these kind of rules. Like, they can't do 2 JPs at the same time. So, they were rolling them in and out of, 30-minute meetings. And they were so worried about that. Like, they had to be careful. They were texting. The next one was outside on, a 95-degree day as we were finishing up. And they were making sure, don't come inside yet till I finish. So depending on, I didn't catch which names they said, but there's some of them who took it really, really seriously. And
there's some of them who are going to massively pocket when they sell them the land.
There's that, that's the possibility. Yeah, there's.
And I dislike back to that, that sort of stuff. The central lack of accountability and communication on that, and I like that. But what I'm hearing, and I don't know, man. All I know is that more than 10 people were saying that there was an off-site meeting with more than 5 justices of the peace that occurred at Shiloh Park. And if that's the case, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm waiting to hear on that, because a lot of the trouble is they have made claims that are verifiable. It was 10 people who were absolutely crazy, staunchly anti-casino, and
then 7 voted for it.
Well, no, I'm saying there was a group.
Oh yes, Citizen for a Better Pope County. Yeah. I'm talking. Well, the JPs initially only one was 4, correct?
This is one of the early on. I remember there was one of the JPs who was staunchly Gulfside. He said, this is the one we should support. I mean, he said it 6 months ago. I think it might have been even in the Courier that he said, this is who I support. This is my, who I'm going for. But there was, at the 11th hour, it was the Tuesday when they were doing the quorum court. They did an hour or so. I sat there for 2 hours and watched the quorum court live stream. The first hour was individuals come up, comment, etc. You got some of the anti-casino, some of the pro-casino. This one group said, I have an affidavit, your Shiloh Park, I have sent 10 affidavits to the Western District of Arkansas Federal Court saying this meeting happened. People are now digging to see if that's even true.
Why lie about it?
Again, just trying to find something to stick.
Okay.
If you have you have to have evidence of this. You know, if you have even the investigation, if this is a possibility, it would stop the process. Like if you had enough, not to necessarily.
That's my paranoia.
Oh yeah, but it's part of the legal system. It's, you know, if there is enough of a cloud that the federal charges could be pending, the process would then call into question if there was. The issue is that nobody's even sure if this really exists yet. Like, or was it, this is again, I have to laugh. You know, how many times on Facebook did you hear the words, I heard that, or, you know, Twitter, or, you know, I heard is not the best legal source or the best information source.
I know.
But it's one of those, people have called that into question. They think it's complete and total BS. It's made up. But your lie might delay it long enough to fight it. So the trouble is, this is where...
Well, here's my contention, too. Who's the number one person, or I'm sorry, not person, but outside of Citizens for a Better Pope County, who's leading the opposition and for why? For what reasons? Moralistic reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So basically what we're saying is that should we assume that these church people are liars? Because that's who's leading this. And how many preachers did you have to see come across that stage? That's another thing I want to get into, man. Like,
now we're getting into it. Crack those knuckles.
Yeah. But how much of what was going on the browbeating moralistic argument of anti-casino did you see that does not need to fit into our bureaucratic process?
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, man, like, just paying attention to all this, like, yes, Mayor, I don't care what the book of 2 Samuel has to say. Like, I read it when I was a teenager and a kid, and, you know, I didn't care too much for it. So I don't like hearing about it when you're saying about how marijuana is bad. When I want that eradicated, not because I'm an atheist, not because I'm an anti-Christian, because it's clearly delineated, I think, that that's supposed to be separate.
Yes. I think this is where a Office of Communication would help. I would put out every press release dealing with the casinos, starting with the state constitution of Arkansas says you shall grant a casino license in the state.
But let's hear what all these preachers have to say about it. Come on down to the meeting.
But this is where it's going to, you know, the casino issues brought a lot of new interest in politics to the table. You have a great running case, an example, like we always talk about teachable moments. The casino's a great one because it is. It's like this running, you know, year-long odyssey of teaching moments. But it's not over yet. You're going into a new phase.
I agree. Yes,
you as a historian will appreciate this. Every time something new comes along, a new economic means or mode of production, it changes power structures, and people don't like change.
Especially around here. I mean, just based off what we've seen in the last, but I'll just say this since you've lived here, since I've lived here. I mean, we haven't lived here. I moved here in like, what was it, 08, 09?
Yeah.
From Clarksville. So I've been around.
Yeah.
But
about this, I think right about now I'm celebrating 10 years of Russellville. Yeah. But it's like, you know, you've seen this with history. You know, when you started to come up with, you know, the Hearst family when newspapers were the biggest thing for 50 years. And then you came along with a little thing called television. And the power of the newspaper industry dropped, and the power of the ABC, NBC, and CBS came up. You know, the automobile, you know.
Digital media.
Oh, okay, let's go full circle. Amazon. There is a realistic reason the president doesn't like Jeff Bezos. And that's because he has, within his own lifetime, he's created a absolutely monstrous new corporation that didn't, you know, I don't think it existed 30 years ago. And it ran in the red for a long time. Like a lot of these tech companies basically scraped and struggled for a long time. And like Amazon's blown up. I think Amazon's like one of the biggest corporations in the world now.
I think it is the biggest.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Walmart's in the top 10s, one of those. But Walmart's been around forever. It took basically Amazon did in half the time the same thing Walmart did. So there's a little bit of professional jealousy kind of things going on with the president. But it's like, I'm old enough. I remember like there was no tech industry. There was no Yahoo, Google, people like working in the garage, suddenly becoming billionaires. That changes the corporate power structure, changes the structure of power and politics. And what's happening...
Well, think about Zuckerberg, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, just a college student, and then...
Yeah.
Now.
Yes. He controls everybody's data. But the issue you get... even if we got the smallest casino that anybody offered, you're dropping all new employees, all new revenue streams, and a new economic structure in Russellville.
Do you think, just along
And Pope
those
County.
same lines, a lot of the local old guard type folks that have been involved in local politics, whether you're on the side of opposition, whatever, do you think there is a demographic and generational change at the cusp of about to happening in our state politics where, I mean...
Oh, I got a couple answers for that. If those who know me, one of the things Arkansas, I think, struggles with is perception. I remember we're getting ready to move to Arkansas. And we were living in the outskirts of Washington, D.C., if you want a sitcom idea for a culture shock.
Whereabouts were you? I was just having acai bowls in Alexandria a few weeks ago.
Northwest, it's called Rockville, Maryland.
Okay.
Northwest of the district. But, I had gotten the job interview at Arkansas Tech. I've been hired, all that sort of great stuff. And my wife is telling her employers and stuff like the professors got it. Like when you want to be a PhD, you want to find a tenure track job, you're looking all across the country. Arkansas, they didn't even flinch. But my wife was working at a tech job basically at the time. And people were like, I'm going to be working remotely. We're going to be relocating to Arkansas. And somebody's like, well, don't they have dysentery in Arkansas?
Oh,
Well, I was like, well, they got drive-by shootings in Washington, D.C., so I wouldn't,
well, we'll take our chances down there.
Yeah, exactly. But I love Russellville. I've had a great experience.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Time. If any time I have ever had a problem with a person in Russellville, they have typically been I'd say 60 and over, and probably 65 or over. There is a massive generational difference.
Yes, agreed.
Now, here's the trouble where it gets into politics. Who is running a lot of the politics is people 60, 65 and older who are kind of set in their ways.
Or what we've seen in the past is they ally with people. So, for example, without getting into any names, a younger guy who's no longer living, not super younger, maybe around your age, maybe give or take, had aligned with an older in their 70s member of the city council and had bought a bunch of land together. And it's just like that sort of back end stuff. It's like, oh, you're on the city council and you block this stuff over here from coming in because you own this land with this guy, and stuff like that. Conflicts of interest again. Here's
the thing I've run into. I think Russellville may be worse for real estate speculation than other places, because I have to realize a line I am not allowed to use anymore is I've lived here 10 years and. But as long as I've lived here, there's been speculation that certain things are coming. Like, I was interviewing for my job here, and it's, now we're 10 and a half years ago. People have had dream projects for 10 years, and none of it has shown up.
Yes.
Weir Road development. When I had my job interview, they were talking about Target Plaza. And
yeah, that is actually, dude, exactly what I was referencing.
Yeah.
Right, that was all over. A city council person owned a lot of that land with somebody, and
They said it was coming February. It was Friday the 13th, February of 2009. They were saying they're talking about this here, an intermodal transportation hub, south of Russellville, north of Dardanelle, train lines, connection. they've been talking about, and a convention center. All three of those things have been people's dreams and fantasies as long as I've...
well, I mean, dude, here's the thing. We're getting taxed for some of the stuff that you just mentioned. And that's convention center. And my question is, and you may know this, like, what's going to happen to that tax fund when this casino builds us a convention center?
That's going to be the trick and the problem. The mayor, your Drew Brent episode, you were talking about the mayor debate. So go back and talk about that. That topic came up. The money is, they're going to have multiple public elections about what to do with the money. Basically, you've been saving, there's millions of dollars in this account. That's why I said and this is the city money. They've been trying to get this for years. The way the mayor, and I think it was the current mayor who actually, wound up winning, you'd have to have one election to say, hey, we saved this money. We don't need to spend it. We need to reallocate it. First election. Then you might need to have, the way he described it, if my memory is not as accurate, then you have to have a second election about where the money goes. So this is the thing. This is a long-term, if you're getting a convention center, you better start now because you may not be able to do anything with that money. In 2020, you can have your 2 elections without spending extra money to figure it out. But you better get on your horse because you got to have it ready by about February of 2020.
Yeah.
But it's going to be really interesting to watch play out. One thing you brought up, the economic agreement that you saw does not earmark money for Russellville. The worst case scenario, no, they don't have to give Russellville anything. Now, if you notice, there are some Russellville entities getting money.
I did notice that. I was curious.
I think Crow Mountain Fire Department was 800 large. I think that's going to be. Don't be surprised if that's the finest. They just built a really nice new firehouse downtown Russellville. I think Crow Mountain, because it's going to be right there.
Yeah.
They're going to have a really nice new fire department. But there's
I like how they're making sure that's outside of the city.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was a big speculation is like, well, you need to build a new fire department in the city.
Oh, yeah.
And it just seems, and everybody's kind of said this in this whole situation, is that it looks like the county played Russellville out of the equation.
I don't think played...
Or Russellville played themselves out of the equation due to how our...
I think the second one may be more accurate. Now, I think I'm a little sympathetic to the mayor.
I'm not at all.
Well...
Only because I've had other dealings with him, and he has no idea what he's doing.
Mine was that I really, really wish Mayor Horton would have won just because... I mean, this is like a generational changing decision. Which casino are we bringing in? You're doing all that on top of a guy who just got the job, who's an engineer by training. And he's trying to figure out how to be a mayor on top of, oh, by the way, here comes all,
Horrible for whoever it is. Horrible for Cross, too.
Oh, yeah. Cross, I think, has got 10 months. I mean, he's got 6 or 7 months extra experience. And yes, the voters of Arkansas did Cross no favors when they said it's one person. Cross could have ignored the entire quorum court. He could have just, woke up, wrote a letter, done. But I think the way they approached it, was probably best. But I think the mayor's trying to figure the job out, just how to be a mayor. And oh, by the way, you've got to make...
Man, I don't want people up against that in local office. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't know how to do the job, don't run, bro. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you have no background, really, in leadership. You have no background in politics.
Yeah.
You probably cannot explain to me the civics, the basics of how this government is to function locally.
Yeah.
So why should you even run for that job other than this group of people wants you to?
That's the thing. I think it's interesting. Harris was a city councilman, so he did have some experience, but he was... I don't know if he decided not to run again or what the...
I thought... so I didn't know he was on the city council.
Yeah.
So that changed a little bit. But I thought that... Because there's Sean Harris, and then there's another Harris on the city council, right?
I don't know. I think she may be off. For the mayor's race, there was, I called them, male Harris and female Harris. There was 2 Harrises on the ballot, and male got through to the second round because it was confused. I know what the debate was. Drew was having to make sure to get the right Harris called upon. But no, I know the current mayor was on the city council. Do you remember maybe 3 or 4 years ago, they were trying to figure out where and how to better regulate food trucks? There's a lot of them around. They have some great food, but there was nothing in like the health and safety codes for food trucks. You open a restaurant, it's covered, but you open like El Noa food truck, great burritos. They were set up next to like an abandoned warehouse, and stuff like that. He was, our current mayor was one of the people trying to push that forward. But all of a sudden, it's different being a councilman versus a mayor. That's the trouble. You're a councilman.
You represent, you don't represent Ward 1 anymore.
Yeah, you represent everybody.
But
the trouble is, I don't know how much it's one of those. There's great communications that I would love that I don't know if they exist, but I would really love to have. Like one of the biggest ones I would love is from the Racing Commission to Judge Cross. Because they made it at their...
you're saying you want to have all those emails, you want to be able to read any correspondence that took place between those 2 people. That should be open public record. We should be able to go to that right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But because the Racing Commission at their July meeting, in open discussion, you can go look at the video, they said, Judge Cross, this local ordinance is unconstitutional. Make a decision like it doesn't exist. And it's one of those things. The state wants the casino revenue because this thing is going to draw people out of Oklahoma. It's going to draw people down 7. And it's like they want the revenue stream from these 4 casinos once they open. That's why they got shovels in the ground at 3 places already. I would love to see them where they say, you need to do this because I think this is, again, the communication thing. If I were Judge Cross, I would just come out and say, look, right after that, the Gaming Commission said that, and I would say, we just had this communication. You can go watch the video. We cannot just say no. We need to make a decision. Because a lot of this discussion was, we want local control, local control. Judge Cross kept local control and chose in what his opinion and the quorum court's decision was the best of the choices.
That's why I think some people are saying, whether there's any truth there or not, that he kind of played. But, dude, he's probably going to get reelected now because of how he played it, I would estimate, right? I don't see enough people hating him because he really played him. I think he played the cards right. In that,
given the hand he was dealt,
yeah. Because here I am pro casino, and you were painted to me as the one person who's not,
Yeah.
But then also, the only thing that looks fishy is like, I honestly take all those JPs out and all their conflicts of interest and everything. I would have been much happier with it if he would have had the one say. But I think that was a political maneuver so he could get reelected.
Nah, I think.
Because he could have had the final say the whole time. And it looks it's in question because one JP was for it. And if JP is just the piece, anybody doesn't know is listening, I keep saying that. But then it's like out of nowhere, in 1 week, it went from all opposed, 1 for to, these 7 people.
Well, see, that's what I would love to hear, the conversations between the state and who basically sort of cleared that election was the sort of the wrench in all of this. Having another vote, because I think that's the one thing I do remember Judge Cross was really clear about. He said having the second vote, $35,000.
Oh yeah, I know.
And it's like,
don't spend that.
Oh no, and that's what they said. It's like, he'd originally said, well, if we vote on it again, it's going to be March 2020. We can lump it in with the presidential primary. We don't spend any more money. But if you want a special election, and they basically, they didn't need it, the local ordinance was unconstitutional, and that you can't re-vote on it.
Who was was it Citizens for a Better Pope County that was backing the local ordinance, or where did that come from?
I believe so. These groups...
who in our local politics is involved with that group?
Don't know off the top of my head.
That's another thing I've been thinking a lot about is like, is it Harris? Is it who in the well is a part of that opposition group?
Here's the funny thing. I think don't be surprised if the left hand and the right hand don't talk to one another. It's one of those things. Well, one, it would be the old money and the old power structure elements of Russellville. Like somebody brought it up. I know I saw it go through. There's sort of an old millionaire who lives around here. He built a hospital.
Yes, I've been
I
following
can't
all of
remember
that.
the name. Now, the one thing I had is I saw this article that somebody shared. Like the original article.
Talking shit about businesses here. Or he didn't really want to live here or something like that.
Well, the article was dated like, it's one of those things you're getting old when you realize that things on the internet, this was dated like 14 years ago. And it's like, yeah, he might have been shady 14 years ago, but can you got anything more recent?
Yeah, I didn't see the date of the article.
Yeah, that's even.
I just saw screenshots.
Yeah.
People were putting screenshots everywhere.
But it's, that's a good example. Think of it this way, how many really nice houses are north of Russellville, between Russellville and Dover? There's a lot of really nice ones. Guess what? You're about to drop a casino into the midst of all that. I got two friends, McMillan lives up on Crow Mountain. That casino's probably...
But his backyard, yeah. A friend of mine, Aaron, from the print shop, he just bought something out towards Crow Mountain, and is definitely like... He drives to Conway to work every day.
Yep.
And he is going to pass it every day when he gets on the interstate,
Oh, yeah. That was part of... One of the things in the run-up that really annoyed the snot out of me was other municipalities and other places talking about locating at this, that, and the other thing. Basically, it was a foregone conclusion. This thing's going on I-40. They want visibility as you're driving.
Perfectly logical, man.
They want, and I forget where it was, somebody brought up, exit 83 in particular. Because if you notice, when you get to 84, you've got all the lights and, you've got like Lowe's and stuff like that. And you see the gas stations and McDonald's and stuff like that. And 81, you get kind of the same thing. You see tech in the distance and that sort of thing. Drive by I-83 after dark.
Where's I-83?
Or, I'm sorry, exit 83.
Oh, yes.
Between the two. It's like there's not a single light.
I know. That weird road exit's a joke, man.
Oh, yeah.
I get off there a lot of mornings. Depends on if I go to work typically before Midtown opens, so some mornings I'll either hit Big Cuppa in Morrilton. That's the on-campus coffee shop, which is good. They have a in town, but I will stop and hit Starbucks. So it's like it'll be
right there.
It'll be right there, and we do, man. And if you look around, that's why on both sides of the interstate, that land has been getting cleaned up and developed. New street over here.
Well, it's you talk about it's visual impact. Like you want people to come in, you want it to make a good first impression.
Curb appeal, infrastructure.
I think you see this everywhere. I remember seeing it in cities and stuff like that, but you have it in Russellville where you go block to block, house to house. It's like cool, I think we've set it down, where the gym is at. Like, you're good. If you want a good example of land speculation, people are speculating around, the location of Forza 2.0 as long as I've been here. You are a block off of Parkway Drive. Parkway Drive has sidewalks, bicycle lanes. They've got like spots cut out for like, driveways and stuff like that. And you watch the signs have changed over the years. You see one realtor sells it, another realtor buys it, but they've speculate on that sort of thing, or it's an investment. I'm going to buy it, I'm going to hold it. Little luck, somebody comes along.
I've been telling people, build the suite signs, build the suite. Build your suite to suit. Build to suit signs are a joke.
Oh, yeah.
Because like they've been setting up all over the community ever since I've lived here, and it's like, now I know why no one is building to suit. Mm-hmm. It's the red tape and you can't. It's not set up for success of people who want to do things here that are not already family ass loaded with money. Mm-hmm. Like you keep talking about power structures and old money and this and that, and it's like very realistically, it's like if you're not from a family that is backing you, you are not going to get things done around here. And talk about finding that out the hard way. Mm-hmm. Corey and I just need to sit down and do a podcast over all of this stuff because I'm just really trying, and I'm not going to dox anybody.
Yeah.
But I've been also like, what can I say and not say about who and not worry about watching my back or worry about any doxing related, because there's about 5 people that are connected to 2 businesses that I'm going to, and I already tell everybody, don't go talk to those people.
Yeah.
And I will say that for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
It's
that's just now. It's conversations, but it's like when we get the other side of this move and we get the other side of this building being bought, the propaganda machine of what I'm going to do in retribution is going to be he's going to kick up.
I think that's going to be one of the interesting power structures when you bring in a casino. You'll bring in other businesses, but you're also bringing in more money. And I would not, like you talk about Russellville and all this weirdness. If I had to guess, the city council members who are clearly anti-casino, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a super PAC created. You know, how much do you think, any of the mayor, city council spend on their campaigns? Probably not that much. I wouldn't be surprised, especially if they keep being so, like all this talk about, we're going to incorporate in the city. No, you ain't. Unless you got $1 billion, you talk about, this millionaire, that millionaire. Cherokee could drop $1 billion and lobby and elect anybody they want.
What do you think about the Jerry Jones connection on all this? We haven't mentioned that at all. I mean, and his wife is from Dardanelle.
It makes, it's, I know we get in our, Arkansas Tech University publications.
Who illegally rezoned my property, by the way. Let's throw that in as hashtag. I know they're your employer, but maybe if there was some type of place like what you're talking about for communications, like the mayor and everybody at our meeting admitted that our property was illegally rezoned.
Yeah, and they can't fix it. Well, I had the same thing happen in my house when I first moved here. We bought the house. They changed. I think this was the county assessor's office, but same problem. I got my first real estate. They re-evaluated my property. I got a really good deal when we bought our house.
Yes, I remember you kind of elaborating that.
They gave us, but they basically taxed it on what its true value was. Like it was, it was an estate sale. It was on the market forever. So we got a really good list price, but it was below like market value. Mm-hmm. So we got a notice that they were sort of correcting it, and it's just like $100 or $200 a year. It's not a huge amount, but we got the notice like 48 hours before we had to have an appeal turned in. Imagine like Wednesday.
I got mine, and this was actually not even on the tech rezoning. This is on a second rezoning. We got it after the meeting already took place.
Yeah. Most problems in politics are not policy, they are process.
That's it. Well, I mean, dude, most problems in business are that way.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you don't have the process to do that. Create the process, your problem goes away.
Yeah. Well, there's an old Congress axiom. If I can control process and you control policy, who do you think gets what they want and who do you think wins every time? Not you. When you control I always joke about it. This is how I explain it in American government. You played Monopoly, right?
Yes.
How many different weird set of house rules have you played with? Do you got to go around the board once before you start buying property? Do you have to start buying right away? How many? Does
finger circle have to be below the waist or the shoulder?
Exactly. Now, hey, we talk about this. Let's go full circle. This is a jiu-jitsu problem. When you start talking about what are the rule sets,
do you want to do self-defense or IBJJF rules? Do you do leg locks? Do you wear white gis? Do you have to wear a guest belt?
Okay, I think there was just, I saw combat jiu-jitsu's coming up again. Do you want to have open hands, can you pimp slap your opponent when they try to put you in half guard and just stall? But here's the thing. Process shapes behavior. Whatever the rule set is, you're going to read it. You're going to shape your strategy accordingly. If you're a big leg locker and they say no leg locks, well, okay, I've got a whole other arsenal I got to go to. But that's the process. A big one. How long's the match? 2, 5, 10, 20 minutes. No limit. Your strategy, how you play the game will change because you want to get the outcome. And that's what happens with process. Like if you were given if you're sent 3 letters 90 days before the rezoning, and here's one that annoys me: does the official sending that letter have a copy?
They couldn't provide us shit, man. I asked
But
for everything for months. I'm like, you have to have the letter on file. Like,
You would certainly hope so, but that process. More problems and successful lawsuits come from not following the due process. Like if they could say, "Look, we sent you this letter in February, March, and April, and we rezoned in May."
well, there's a clear list of steps to follow, and it's a lot. And, and it's no surprise why an institution like Arkansas Tech or the city or anybody doesn't follow it, because you do have multiple methods of contact, signage, announcements in local newspapers, and they very rarely ever do any of it.
Yeah. But the trouble is that how much, this is one of the ones where, like with the marijuana dispensary, how much can you afford to pay to fight and win? That was basically once, with the marijuana dispensary, the state constitution says you will allow them, you have to follow the same rules as a normal, like a CVS. Went through the planning commission vote, 8-0, 9-0, no problem. Got to city council, 4-4 against, and 1 abstention, so it failed. The mayor said, again, sort of said, for moral reasons, can't support this. And then in about 2 weeks, they realized that you're fighting to change the state constitution of Arkansas.
Again.
And you're talking $100,000 price tag. Win or lose. Now imagine having, if you talk about not getting reelected, I fought the state constitution of Arkansas over medical marijuana. I could not raise, basically no Russellville police officers got a raise, no Russellville school district teachers got a raise, and I lost.
And it's going to be on the ballot in 2020. It's probably going to pass recreational legality. That's my speculation.
That's not a bad one.
Have you seen the measures that are going on the 2020 ballot for this?
I haven't seen it yet, but it makes perfect sense.
It's like a combination of what's going on in Illinois. So it's for full medical, recreational, and for the expungement of records.
Ooh.
So they've tacked that on. It's above and beyond what it was in, what was it, 2016 when it passed? When we got...
Yes.
So, and that's another thing. It's like 2016... we said patients can get their medicine, but 2018 in our community,
I think it was,
sorry, you're still shit out of luck, patient.
Yeah.
You don't get your cancer drug.
It's called the slow roll. Like I know, Governor, this is a weird legal area, but Governor Hutchinson slow rolled this as much as he possibly could. Like I think they only started opening in Northwest Arkansas this calendar year.
Yeah. Well, and two, most of the dispensaries are up against it still, like of the initial phases of trying to the oversight, and then you have to cross your I's, dot your T's. But the local government, they can do whatever they want. But you people are bad for society, because even though you only service cancer patients.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. If it was recreational, I could get it. But it's like, have you seen someone with Parkinson's put marijuana drops under their tongue, or put cannabis oil under their tongue? Or a kid with seizures? It blows my mind, man.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even know. I'm just let people do what they want. You're not the safeguard of my consciences.
Oh, no. You as the historian, you go find the old black and white movie Reefer Madness.
Hundreds of billions. Yeah, I'm seeing it.
And it's like, that is still this mindset. And it's been that way. We've had the war on drugs forever.
Talk about a sinkhole for tax dollars.
Oh, yeah. But it's like, people figured out, it's medicinal purposes. And hell, for recreational and tax revenue, I wasn't kidding. The state of Colorado taxes it like at 19%. That is a massive revenue stream. Especially it becomes like Colorado. I think they called it marijuana tourism.
Oh yes, and that I will say,
my scheming is hey, we got to imagine a casino and like a weed bar next door.
Well, I think marijuana tourism is bad. I think that is one of the only arguments people have come up with, that it does have some real implications. It's like, Yes, you're totally right. Because you, the federal government, have kept it federally legal.
Yeah.
People will drive to that state or any state because we're
You're
how many states now?
Yeah.
And then they will drive back
Yeah.
to their state. So
Yeah. I could go buy a pound in Colorado, come back, and
yeah, I mean, or just like think about all the the marijuana tourism is people are moving to Colorado for those reasons too, and it's like then you get also like
well, if I had somebody with a major medical condition, I'd
that. But think
thinking
about migrations of just people that just like smoking weed.
Oh, yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying? Like hell yeah, I'm moving to California or wherever it is that just so I can smoke weed legally.
Yeah.
Like that goes on too. And are any of those people homeless or criminals and stuff like that? Some people argue that. I don't know, but it's tax money leaving one state and going to another. It's like what we're talking about with digital online sales and all this stuff too.
I was thinking alcohol sales. Blackwell,
Drew and I talked about that. Yeah,
yeah, they've been trying to change alcohol laws in Wet County, stuff like that. Both Pope County and what is Clarksville in? What county is that? Johnson County.
Yeah.
You know, I have to admit, when I was at Slippery Rock, I made money off of, they call it the temperance belt. You still have wet counties, dry counties that run. Pennsylvania was one of, Pennsylvania's almost done, like the last bastions, but it's basically like this curve that runs from Pennsylvania down through Texas, where it's heavily limited. It was weirdest when I was in D.C., because I was in Maryland, there's the District of Columbia, and Virginia. They're all within like a stone's throw of each other. Like in Maryland, you had beer distributors. You want to buy beer, you got to go to one store. You want to buy hard liquor and wine, you go to a state store. Right across the Potomac, one of the rivers, you're going to CVS and you can buy beer, wine, and hard liquor. Like I think somebody shared it like, wow, you could buy beer at Dollar General. In some places you can.
Dude, I remember when I first time I went into a Missouri Walmart and saw that they had like a whole wing, like a whole room with alcohol in it, man. Like separate sliding doors and like you come in from the outside and go into it. It's like a garden center setup, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. They're selling beer at Walmart in Missouri. Like I literally was growing up in Arkansas I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I was like 19 years old. I just blew my mind seeing beer in Walmart.
Mine oddly was it's a grocery store chain in Michigan called Meijer, like Meijer. Same thing, Walmart. But I went there. I was used to Pennsylvania. I was 19 when I was at home, so I knew all the limitations and stuff like that. When I was in the Army, we had beer, wine, and liquor in stores on post. So I never actually bought a whole lot.
Well, man, that's
in North Carolina. But we went there, and it's like there's an entire it is you called it. It is its own this place is huge, and like a third of it is and it's by the way, it's right by the University of Michigan. So they're geared for beer, but there is an entire aisle of beer, an entire aisle of wine, and an entire aisle of hard liquor.
Why do you think they kept that stuff on post for you, though, is the real heart of the thing. Is like, because, man, I don't want people driving to Blackwell to get alcohol. And, like, man, I've heard several people be like, yeah, if I was driving 5 minutes from my house to get it down on the corner, I wouldn't drink it on the way home.
Oh, we could.
But since I have to drive 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes of my day to go get some alcohol, I'm drinking on the way home. Like, I've heard a bunch of people say that, and I'm like, holy shit.
Well, I see that when I go to buy. They've got the little, ice barrels and, individuals. That's probably not the best. Well, that's the thing. That's a generational thing, too. Like, I remember growing up. I remember driving with my, ex-stepfather, and I remember once or twice, he had beer, an open beer in the car while we're driving. He'd be in his 70s now. So that's a big generational gap, but
it still goes on, man.
Well, the funny part of it is though, whenever you get off work, it's I think my company was about 80 or 90 people. The minute you get released at 5:30 in the afternoon, everybody goes upstairs, and I would say at least half a dozen guys are making the beer run straight. We had a PX straight across the street. Didn't have to drive anywhere. I mean, they didn't have as big a selection, but you can get cases of Coors Light, without even having to get into a car, 45-second walk each way.
You ever listen to Todd Snyder?
What's
It's a guy that sings. It's kind of a folk music. Michael Booty turned me on to him.
I've seen this. Yeah,
He's got a song you should check out.
There's
called
another
Beer,
Todd's-
Beer Run, and it's hilarious.
there's another Todd Snyder does movies. Like Todd Snyder's a director.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think what is it? I'm trying to remember. I ran into Todd Snyder as he made a Fish documentary called Bittersweet Motel. And he got to follow the band around and was sort of this might be 20 or 20. Oh, God, we're getting old.
We don't talk about Fish on this podcast, sir. I'm just kidding. We
Yes.
can. But the Panic fans, they don't like Fish.
I know.
I've never
it's
even.
just-
I mean, really, honestly, any Trey Anastasio I've heard is pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
if
It's just weird tribalism. I've seen it. Like I joke, I'm a big Van Halen fan, but the weird thing about that tribalism is either you are a Sammy fan or you are a Dave fan, and you're not allowed to respect both.
don't you be listening to Chicken Foot either.
No. But
I love Chicken Foot.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
they rock. Man.
oh yeah, but it's like you have to pick one. It's like if you've seen Seinfeld, you have to wear the ribbon. You know,
Yes,
that's sort
been
of
a long time, but yes,
it's like
McMillan's calling me.
Oh.
I'll call him back later.
yeah. But yeah, there's. I was thinking about it. If you want to understand the weirdness of local politics, you got to go watch Parks and Rec. There is an episode called Sex Education. It is hysterical, slightly disturbing, but it captures moralistic life in a small town pretty quickly. The characters work for the Parks and Rec department, but they do a lot with like health and outreach. The episode, there is a chlamydia outbreak in Pawnee's elderly population. So a bunch of people our age have to go do sex ed to old people.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Start with that setup, but then about 5 or 6 minutes into the episode, the city moral code enforcers show up, played sort of over the top, and that was. But it captured. But then they get into what's the law say, stuff like that. I think it's season 3 or 4. But when you watch that episode, like that show was always good. But teaching politics and especially like small town politics, there's a lot of stuff that they really nail. That you're like, I've seen.
Is Parks and Rec still on Netflix?
Yes, I know some of the seasons at least. We have Hulu is where we watch, but absolutely seasons. It really explodes about halfway through season 2 because that's when they bring in Rob Lowe as the new city manager, and they basically just something really clicked, you know. But I mean, there's great episodes in season 2 in particular. Season 1's was only 6 episodes, but that episode alone captures a lot of this. And the trouble is, it's like, fiction's great because it doesn't necessarily attack people. But the longer you do this, you realize that what they show in that episode is only like 1% fiction, and you could drop that into how many, small towns, there's always somebody talking about some form of moral decay in every community. Like, we're going to open a casino and we're getting strip clubs. Somebody's, it's like,
dude, I mean,
oh God,
what is mind blowing to me? And let's kind of like start wrapping it up on this because I think I'm gonna have to help Corey put the groceries away in a moment. But like, what would you say Republicans stand for?
Well, I think you have to split. There's Republicans.
Well, it is conservatives.
Conservatives.
Less government involvement in people's lives.
Ideally, yes.
Oh, because it's kind of around here. It's those people,
Yeah.
that are effing everything up and being more involved in my life.
Yeah, I know this is something I need to sort of dig into. Any political ideology that I've run into has logical inconsistencies. And I think you do see, that's one example, less government, we believe in lower taxes, less government involvement, stuff like that, except, and then they list off a couple of things. Like on a national level, it's like smaller government, lower taxes, but we have we spend a lot more under Republicans and Democrats for national defense. The Democrats and liberals have the exact same thing. I just haven't sat down and really sort of thought, I believe in government, I believe in, higher taxes, except, there's always, there's always logical inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Especially if you look at these things over time. Things change.
Well, it does. Like Southern Democrats, for example, like in the time of LBJ. I'm fascinated by that stuff, though, and it's like maybe we're in a time like a lot of people make the argument that like if you look back at Bill Clinton, you're like, man, that dude was conservative as all get out.
Oh yeah,
but that's only in comparison to today's liberal.
Oh yeah,
or today's Democrat or whatever you want.
But that gave him appeal on a nationwide to be able to get the nomination. People like worry. I'm getting in my brain around, I've got 18 or 19 Democrats trying to become president. I'm not going to learn half of them just because. But you get this whole political spectrum. You've got everything from, as liberal as far out left as you, like Bernie Sanders is going, man, that's a liberal. Everywhere to like the middle of the political spectrum. But there's so many people, because there's so many differences of opinion. But as the historian, the one thing we're getting ready for is we're about due for a political party ideological shakeup. The last big one, it was kind of the tail end of Southern realignment when all the Southerners realized you didn't have to be Democrats. You could become independents. Then, Reagan came along and said, the Christian conservatives moved into the Republican Party.
We're still seeing that.
Well, it's pretty close to there. But in U.S. history, political party systems are consistent for about 30 or 40 years.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Every 30 or 40 years, you got a pretty normal system, and then something happens, you scramble the system and start over.
That's
The last one was Reagan in 80, 81. That's when he brought Christian conservatives in, stuff like that. Guess what? Start doing the math. We're at 36, almost 40 years after Reagan. And people are really disapproving of both political parties. I mean, the Democrats, aren't doing a whole lot better. But, we're at a point where people are frustrated, alienated with both sides of the political.
That's where I'm at, honestly. Yeah. So let's wrap up with this. Like, what are your thoughts on Bernie this go around? For being the Democratic nominee for the party for president.
He's definitely got the name brand recognition. He's going to have to fight the ageism.
I mean, shit, if John McCain could do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, John McCain was older than Bernie, was he not?
Oh, yeah. But I think Bernie's a good example of how politics moves towards the candidate. Like, Bernie was too left-wing in 2016, but, like, the whole Democratic Party,
shifted, yes.
They ran him. He was way out on the left end.
He's in the middle of that spectrum now.
Oh, yeah. And okay, let's go really wrap it up. It's jiu-jitsu. Timing is everything. You got the right message at the wrong time, and you're going to do okay. You got the right message at the right time.
That's a great metaphor, dude.
So
I tell people that all the time. Like, you do the right technique at the wrong time, it ain't going to work.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's an interesting. I just keep saying that, man. It's a very interesting time to be around because things are shaking up and changing more than ever, technologically, politically, socially, diversity-wise. I mean, we're living in the midst of a majorly and massively historic time period of the digital age in which, man, maybe this is what it was like in a way when the printing press came out. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, I think that we're the digital...
That changed power because, the power was the church. And if you were making, how long, for how many centuries had the church...
80 years before Martin Luther, they burned somebody at the stake for having the same ideas.
I'm thinking the churches would manufacture the Bible. They would handcraft it. They would be individuals. And once the printing press comes around, they can mass produce it. But they can also mass produce anything else.
Yes.
So changing technology changes the message. Oh, yeah, these, we're just living, I think it's happening faster with the digital age, but it's still happening.
That's, yeah. The digital age is a fascinating time. I think I tell my students this all the time, like particularly when I teach Civ 2, but it's like there's the printing press and the internet, and you need to think about them as similar in scope.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't talk about post-internet. I mean, I do a segment on 45 to present in that Civ 2 class. When I start getting into US 2, I will get to go more down that rabbit hole, I think. But I don't know if I'll teach. I'll probably wait until next fall to teach US 2, honestly. I've developed Arkansas, US 1, and Civ 1 and 2 so far. I just have that US2 left to develop, and I may over time look into develop an American government course.
No, whatever you lose your mind and decide you want to come to the dark side in American government, come on down.
Oh, dude, you'll be
We'll sit, we'll talk.
you'll be my Papa Bear to Black and Derek Rowley, man.
You got to buy the beer. That's the only requirement.
Deal.
And I would say don't do it. Don't start it until January of 2021.
Man, I'm wanting to start it. I want to get that US developed,
Yeah.
and it'll be the last course I develop. I think that in the next few years we won't have anybody to teach it as well. Like we just stopped offering geography, like because we didn't have anybody to teach it, and I'm just like, well, we just don't need geography for students here at the community college. And that's not a course I'm going to be.
Part of it I know from us is geography and history is one of the biggest things they're being able to get college credit for in high school.
Yes. Well, see, that's
American
the thing.
government not nearly as much.
We have tons of students. I was telling somebody this at the coffee house earlier that get their associate's degree by the time they graduate. But
I don't know if I've gotten anybody that far, but I've had somebody walk onto campus like they've never taken a class at Arkansas Tech, and they are a sophomore in credit hours.
Yeah.
But I mean, they've nailed all 4 of the history classes. They've nailed the geography, both English comp classes. Sometimes they're math.
A lot of our students we get like that end up going to UCA. So
yeah,
but I mean that's like it was. You could take a couple. You might take comp in college algebra when I was in high school, but now these high school students in 10th grade, 9th grade, even sometimes they're taking those courses. Then they're doing a summer class, maybe a night class, and by the time they get out of high school, they have an associate's degree. And I'm just like,
yeah,
holy crap!
Oh yeah,
like that. I mean, good thing I decided to get a master's because apparently there's a bunch of 18-year-olds out there with associate's degrees. Like, 2 years away from having a bachelor's. The amount of time it would normally take you to get a master's, or to get an undergraduate rather, to get a master's if you're an incoming freshman, but you're actually sophomore.
Exactly. Yeah,
so we're junior.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot. Well, I see a lot of that, especially for those knocking out a lot of general education. They're showing up.
Well, we're big, man. Gen Eds, and I'm like that's the department I teach in, obviously, but they're huge.
Oh yeah.
So
that's what everybody's. Gen Ed pays the bills. It supports your upper level class habits.
It does, man. I hope over time we are able to implement and add some more upper level stuff. So we have a New South class and stuff, but they're not in the business of offering anything but intros, really.
Oh yeah, but you could do a lot of fun stuff at 2000 level too. Do an American political film class or U.S. history and film. Like I know,
oh, that'd be awesome.
I love Jeff Pearson, but going to a movie that has any kind of historical context is always risky. Like I know what's the one with Leonardo DiCaprio he finally won the Oscar for?
The Remnant, the Revenant, something like that. Yeah.
He was, I think he liked the movie, but as far as historical accuracy, he's one of those historical accuracy because he's just U.S. Western historian.
Oh yeah, I had him in class, History of the American West.
Yeah, it's like he's like, well, this not quite,
I've been harassing that dude to come on the podcast. He's too busy hanging out with his new wife.
Yeah, I know.
To come on, but you have to give him a hard time if you see him.
Oh, we always do.
I've been trying to get him to come on. Man, I'd love to sit down with him. It was funny. Like I started liking Pearson a lot more after I was in grad school and I no longer had him in class and stuff, and after he had been a professor for a couple of years too.
Oh yeah,
because I mean that was his first job, if I'm not mistaken. No. I think did he come straight out of PhD school for the most part? And
no, I think he has a lot of professors. What's hard is you wind up doing a lot of 1 year replacements. Somebody leaves, somebody retires. All of a sudden, they'll hire a 1 year. And give you and then while you're there, they're searching for a permanent replacement. Search, so I think he bounced around like that a bit, like many people do. I think I was fortunate I didn't as much, but I know like Rogers did, whatever. But I've gone to movies. It's like I don't think it's usually too bad, but that's the one I remember distinctly. Him like God. Rolling his eyes and looking.
Shoot, I need to sit him down here. We just need to do some entertainment Unraveled podcast. Like, hey, Pearson, I really just brought you here today to watch The Searchers with John Wayne.
Yeah,
go.
Yeah, but like with the Unforgiven.
Yeah.
That's one I always liked because part of it is they demystify the Western. Like, there's all these characters who are these long-term gunfighters who are saying these great, the stories these are great things and stuff like that. But then, like, I think it was Gene Hackman's characters, like. the British dude. He's like, yeah, he was so drunk, he shot this guy in the back, and it takes a lot of that. It touches on that idea.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the romanticism, and I haven't seen Unforgiven forever. I have to rewatch that. That was a bad movie the first time I saw it.
Here's the thing: for like an hour and 50 minutes, it's like it destroys the romanticism.
Yeah,
but the last scene is like the ultimate Wild West romanticism.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up before you get in trouble.
Right on. No, I think we're good. I just need to let the dogs out before she gets home, and I think the groceries are on their way. She's at her sister's house, been texting me. But, dude, thanks for coming on. I'll get this uploaded real soon. As always, this is like your third time on the podcast, so I have to have you back on. We could have you and Pearson on at the same time. You need to tell that dude when you see him at work this week that we talked about him.
All right.
Because I've hit him up twice about coming on, and I like anytime I hit somebody up and they like it's more than me talking to him a couple of times. I'm just like, they know about it. They see you come on, they let me know. But I would love to have that guy on. I enjoyed his class, and like I said, and maybe he'll hear this. I appreciate him now more. Because it was a beneficial class, and at the time I did not appreciate it like I should have.
I think that is the professor's challenge, curse, what you want to call it.
5 years down the line, I'm like, man, that was a really good class. I just wish I would have.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with a 20 or 21-year-old, and you realize that there's other skills that we learned and stuff like that. Why'd you make me write all those papers, Dr. Housenick? Well, it's because you're going to get a job. If you're a lawyer, you're going to need to be able to write.
Yeah. No, I'm big on writing, man. I wonder where I got all that from.
Yeah, exactly.
People like you.
Yeah, I know.
So, all right, dude. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you guys listening.